And probably the most miserable First Lady we've ever had is Michelle Obama. This woman can't find anything to be joyful about. We've heard her whinge incessantly about, well, everything on her low-rating podcast. She has even found a way to complain about the financial cost of being the first family.
It's expensive to live in the White House. As many people don't know, I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel. If you're not traveling with the president, if your kids are coming on a Bright Star, which is the First Lady's plane, we had to pay for their travel to be on the plane. It is an expensive proposition.
Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gada. Kosha, the Obamas went into the White House with meagre assets. They're now worth somewhere between 70 to 250 million. And Michelle Obama continues to push this grievance politics. Is there no one in her inner circle who's telling her, this just looks terrible, you look so entitled and miserable?
Seemingly not. It really is fascinating. And, there's tone deaf and then there's tone deaf. This is just beyond the pale, like, we have to pay for our daughter's travel and
on a private jet.
On a private jet.
The taxpayer pays for.
I know, with Secret Service and everything else. And most of us, if we're traveling with our kids to any corporate event, the employer doesn't pay for our kids when we go and travel. So just the tone deaf is really funny. She's criticized Barack Obama a lot too on these podcasts.
This is what's been so interesting. She barely has anything positive to say about her husband, which in itself is raising eyebrows.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting about the grievance, because there's the boilerplate grievance that they all do about racial injustice and social injustice. But in her case, it's personal, like having to pay for things, or, her husband and marriage.
Decade of unhappiness.
Right.
She talked about,
bad decades in America. So it's just, she seems like an unhappy person. I don't want to do armchair psychoanalysis of somebody, but it really seems that way. And it seems to be the language that she's most fluent in, the language of grievance. And so it keeps coming out day in and day out.
Well, I think she's finding through the data sets she's getting for her podcast, if anyone in her circle is honest enough to tell her the truth, the figures aren't good. I mean, that should tell her something, despite the enormous publicity she's receiving. Now, I played clips of Kamala Harris's first major speech since the election loss. Here is a mercifully short 8-second reminder.
Who saw that video from a couple of weeks ago, the one of the elephants at the San Diego Zoo during the earthquake?
And here is Stephen Miller with a message for Kamala Harris and the broken Washington Press Corps. This is a powerful rebuke.
The only thing Americans want to hear from Kamala Harris is an apology for joining Joe Biden, and remember, she was the border czar, joining Joe Biden in aiding and abetting the invasion of our country. And we're never going to stop talking about this, because what they did to this country is unforgivable. It is an eternal stain on the Democrat Party. Every day we read another story. Every day we arrest another alien they let into this country who raped a child, who beat a woman within an inch of her life, who murdered a mom, who murdered a dad, who trafficked drugs into this country, who trafficked fentanyl into this country, who are responsible for dead and slaughtered Americans. And I don't know what's broken in the Washington Press Corps, that none of that moves them emotionally. The only thing that gets them exercised is, do we need to have more trials for terrorist supporters? Do we need to have more trials for gangbangers? Do we need to have more trials for illegal alien invaders? Even though Congress and the Constitution clearly say that you can expel invaders and illegal aliens quickly, efficiently, and properly.
Kosha, the Democrats continue to advocate for an MS-13 gangbanger, or Maryland Dad as they prefer to call him. But we will hear very little from them, as Stephen Miller said there, about the victims of criminals who've come into the country illegally. And that is an enormous shortfall in the Democrats' moral compass. It's like, whose side are you on? Look at the way they've advocated for this lone criminal. Multiple Democrats have gone down to El Salvador to meet with him, to advocate on his behalf. But we don't even hear them mention these American victims of some of these really violent criminals who walked across the border unchecked, millions in Biden's 4-year term.
It's almost like there's just two different realities that we're living in, or that they're living in, versus the real world. And I don't know how much of it is TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, that anything where there's success, that's success for the American people, they just cannot give credit where credit's due, or how much of it is it doesn't affect them because they all live in very nice gated communities on the coast, so they don't have to live with that reality, so it's out of sight, out of mind for them, or it's just resistance, and now the judicial activism and lawfare is kind of their last line of defense to try and do that and give due process to people who exercised no due process when they came into the country, but they apparently deserve it on their way out, and that's just the hill they're dying on.
That would mean you would have these cases, given the millions that have come through, for 20, 30 years. I mean, it is just completely ridiculous to suggest that they have to exhaust a legal process as if they're American citizens and entitled to the same rights.
Makes absolutely no sense. And I think their strategy is to run out the clock.
Yeah.
Because we've only got 3.5 years left of this administration. Who knows what will happen in 2028. And this is going to a head about the judicial branch and the executive branch. And it is possible that you might see a point where the executive branch doesn't comply with an order. And that is going to be the so-called constitutional crisis.
Now, Stephen Miller, who you just heard from there, is in line to be elevated to President Trump's next national security advisor. Mike Waltz was ousted from the role last week. This is a move that would be enormously popular with the Trump-based Kosha, as Stephen Miller is very well regarded indeed.
He is the OG when it comes to immigration, just very strong legally, very smart lawyer, really seems to believe in this issue. There's all these memes how the Trump administration in his orbit, inner circle, were plotting for 4 years about their return and what they'll do. And he's always at the top of that as somebody who just came up with strategy, exactly which statutes are going to rely on, exactly which EOs are going to do. And he understands that immigration and border security is national security. That is one of the core tenets of it, and so if he is elevated to that position, I think it's going to bring a very interesting flavor.
Now, the Met Gala was on earlier today, and naturally there were scenes of violence with anti-Israeli activists attacking pro-Israeli activists. And Kosha, one of the attendees of this $70,000 a head get-together was Kamala Harris. Now, she was wearing an outfit described thusly by Vanity Fair, a bespoke black and cream silk off-white dress featuring colour blocking and a dramatic trailing sleeve, as well as a black scarf that doubled as a diminutive train for the look. It's also been compared to the iconic New York favourite dessert, the black and white cookie. That's a bit harsh. On a more serious note, Kosha, Kamala Harris is positioning herself to run again. The polls show that out of that very shallow talent pool, she is the front runner at the moment.
In her defense, she's not an unattractive lady, so I think I probably would have done one more fitting of the dress, but I think the black and white can look quite elegant, so I think she just maybe missed the mark a little bit, but it wasn't terrible. She is the front runner. I think it's recency bias, just because she was in the limelight for such a long period of time and was elevated to that role. Once things get serious, 18 months or so from now, 2 years from now, and you're going to see the likes of Gavin Newsom or Josh Shapiro or Gretchen Whitmer, other people, Mark Kelly, throw their hats into the ring. I think all of that's going to recalibrate. And nobody can forget that she has never won anything, anytime she's run for any election, other than DA and senator in California, but that's kind of a foregone conclusion if you're a Democrat.
Well, yeah, if you've got a D next to your name, an inanimate carbon rod can get elected. Before you go, let's talk a little bit about Prince Harry. He's been busy trying to rewrite history.
You accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
The British press said that.
Right.
Did Meghan ever mention that they were racist?
She said there were troubling comments about
there was concern about his skin colour.
Right.
Concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? Who is having that conversation? There is a conversation. Hold up.
There's several conversations.
There's a conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be.
Yes, Harry and Meghan made that a major theme of their doco or reality series is really what it was. Kosha, now they want to claim it was all the work of the evil media, that they were just talking about unconscious bias. I mean, these semantic games they're playing, no one's falling for it.
No one's falling for it. There is a blueprint for it, whether it's everybody pretending that nobody knew about Joe Biden's mental decline or this. They tend to memory hold things and think we're not paying attention. We live in the day and age of videotape and social media, and that footage over there is never going to be forgotten, both what she said and Oprah's bad acting, which is like, what? And nobody's going to ever forget that, and he can try to rewrite history all he wants. It's not going to work.
Kosha, thank you so much for your time. Kosha Gada.